Believe it or not, most prospects are going to make the decision of whether they want to buy from you or whether they don't within the first 2 minutes of the call. That means that those first 2 minutes are absolutely critical. How you position yourself, your pacing, your tone, how you communicate about specific things, and most importantly, whether the prospect is even focused or not. All of that plays a massive role in whether they're going to take you seriously and buy or not. In this video, I'm going to break down step by step what to actually do in the first 2 minutes of every call so that your prospect respects you, trusts you, and is actually in the right state of mind to make potentially a good decision. Now, if you don't know me, hi, my name is Christian Jack. I've been in sales since 2021, and in that time, I've generated over $100 million in sales revenue, in high ticket, in insurance, in software, in various different arenas. And now I coach some of the best salespeople in the world to do the same. And before I dive in to tell you exactly what to do, I need to first frame it with a story, because there was a time where I didn't run the first 2 minutes of the call the way that I needed to. I went through a couple of phases, but ultimately it was through this process that I learned the actual importance of those first 2 minutes of the call. So when I first started in sales, I was taught exactly what to say in the first 2 minutes to set a frame, all that kind of good stuff. But the frame was all about me. And ultimately, I started just kind of like pissing off prospects and starting off on the wrong foot on the call anyway, and even framing my own mentality as I was learning sales on me instead of being about the prospect. So that was phase one. Phase two is once I learned that that was kind of happening and I learned a better way, I started to kind of just be a human, if you will, and unlearn all of that stuff to start framing the call with just saying, hey, my name's Christian here with XYZ company. How can I help? And that worked fairly well for a little while. It definitely started conversations off more on a better foot, like more in the direction that they needed to go. However, then I noticed that I lost a little bit of control. And so it was through that I then developed this system of how to truly open up the first 2 minutes of the call to make sure that, number one, we had the human connection and it was, an organic conversation, but then also at the same time, we were moving in the direction that we needed to go and that we weren't getting distracted by all the various ways that this call could go. So now I've taught a couple of Dojo students this exact concept, and once they actually started implementing it, it was wild to see the number of closes actually go up, because again, the first 2 minutes of the call is not just about the first 2 minutes of the call, but it is framing the conversation, it is anchoring the conversation, and it is really just setting things up to go the way that you have typically found they need to go in order to have good decisions coming from the end of this call. It's pretty simple, so let's get into it. There are 5 really big misconceptions that most salespeople have about how to properly start their first 2 minutes of a sales call. And here's the first one, that you can sell effectively regardless of call conditions. Most people think that it doesn't matter if somebody's driving, if they're, taking care of their kids, if their dog's barking and distracting them in the background. The thing is, this is completely wrong, right? If your prospect is driving, if they've got their kids distracting them, if their dog is running around in the background, like, you've already lost. But why? The reason is because they're not focused, they're not present, they're not able to have the mental capacity to actually listen to what you're saying, compare other options in their head, think through the repercussions or the impact of what happens if they do this versus what happens if they don't. Because your brain can only hold so much cognitive capacity at any given time, any amount of cognitive load. And if that's filled up like at least 50% with other distractions, then that means that they're going to have 50% less cognitive power in terms of evaluating and being present and all the things that you need to have in terms of a productive conversation with another human being, sales or not. Because you can have the best pitch in the world, but if your prospect isn't actually in a focused environment, ready to listen, ready to pay attention, it's not going to land. So instead, just start your call by checking with a prospect, hey, just to make sure, is this still a good time for you to chat? Are you like somewhere quiet? Are you focused for the next 30, 45 minutes completely? Or are there any other distractions that could get in the way? And just anything like that. It doesn't have to be complicated, but just bringing that up and bringing it to their attention that like, hey, this is important and we need to focus. That alone is going to make sure that they either are focused, or if they're not, they're going to let you know. And then you can make the judgment with them on whether you'd like to reschedule, whether you'd like to just cover the first portion of the call, or kind of what you'd like to do from there. It'll be up to you. But if you're not rescheduling, and just like, don't waste the bullet that you have in the chamber, right? Make sure that you take advantage of what you can, but also ensure that if you're going to use another bullet, that it's used at the right time. All right, misconception number 2 is that you can rush through sales and presentations and pitches and everything and still have an effective call. Now, speed generally kills deals at the closing stage, right? When it comes to speed to lead and reaching out to people and getting them set up for an appointment, speed is your friend. But when it comes to the closing conversation, speed generally isn't actually your friend, at least within the conversation. You want to slow down, because think about it this way. If you try to squeeze in a 40-minute conversation with somebody about all of their limiting beliefs about the problems in their business, how it's affecting them personally, their business partnerships, how the structure of the decision-making process is organized, what their buying criteria is, and what it is that they don't like, what sort of research have they done, how familiar are they with your company and your product and what you do, and that versus all the competitors, and like all this shit, it takes time. It takes time to get through all of this. If you want to think about it this way, the one call close is something that is truly remarkable if you think about it from like a human influence and conversational standpoint, because there's so much that happens inside of that one call. And more often than not, like, people are going to need the same amount of time in order to get through all of this information and internal dialogue with themselves. And so if it's going to take the same amount of time and you choose to do it on one call instead of 2, 3, or 4, then that means that one call is going to have to go slower, right? And by going slower, notice that even when I just talk slower at you, you start to pay more attention. You lean in, you focus more. And so stop trying to speed through your conversations. And this is especially important because at the top of the call, if there's any sort of time limitations, if there's any sort of time pressures on the back end of the call, maybe they have to go 30 minutes in, I need to know that right from the start, because I need to know how much time I have to get through things and properly plan maybe where we would take a break and schedule another call, because I don't want to speed through everything in 20 minutes. As an example, if they need to go 20 minutes from now, then I'm going to figure out a point in the conversation where I can put a pin in it and reschedule to another call. All right. So at the beginning of the call, I'll usually just say something like, hey, looks like we've got 45 minutes set aside for this call today. Any time pressures on your end? And then I'll usually crack some sort of joke like, kids got soccer practice, or, baby's going to be waking up for the nap, or dog's got to go out and take a shit. A little bit of profanity can also kind of bring a bit of deviance in the conversation. If you want to learn about like the more high level stuff like deviance and regression and all that kind of good stuff, I do teach that inside the Sales Dojo and some of the higher belt levels. So hit that link down in the description and you can check it out for 7 days for free and even learn some of that in your free trial. So enjoy. But generally that just kind of frames the pace early on and sets an expectation of not only seriousness, but focus for that full amount of time, because nobody makes a serious buying decision in a rushed 12-minute call. All right. Now, misconception number 3 is that some prospects are just closed off and they can't be influenced. That is absolute horseshit. Absolute big bowl of warm horse piss. It's terrible, right? This is a total cop-out by people who just don't know how to actually sell. Now, there is no such thing as a prospect who just can't be sold, because the thing is that selling doesn't happen from me talking to somebody. Selling doesn't happen from the words that I say. At some level, there is some influence that can be made there, but ultimately where selling happens is where I help them realize things that they have already told themselves so that they sell themselves. And people are very good at selling themselves. You sell yourself all the time on whether to go to the gym or not, on whether to eat healthy or not. You sell yourself on what you want to do with your time right now. You sold yourself on watching this video instead of going and doing anything else with your life right at this point. So it's your job in order to help them sell themselves. But generally where this comes into play is when people see prospects who are maybe a bit defensive, people who are confused, people who are potentially guarded, or sometimes even just completely unprepared for the conversation. And so if somebody feels cold, stiff, like they've got a wall up, then instead of trying to like charm your way in, if you will, just create contrast, do a pattern break, do something wild, use calibrated confusion. All right. Ask a question that maybe they haven't heard before. You can even maybe just reframe what they just said using their own logic, because when people feel confused, then they start searching for clarity, and that means that they're leaning in, and you can provide that clarity for them. And that's generally a great way to get in with people who are maybe what you might call more A-type, more aggressive, people who just want to like get straight to the point, all those sorts of things. And that's how you earn their attention and their trust and influence skeptical buyers. Right. Misconception number 4 is that you should take every call regardless of call conditions. Now, some of you are being taught the exact opposite of the way the world works. And some of you are taught to take every single call that you can, no matter what. Do you have a bad lead? Take it. Wrong time? Take it. Tire kicker? May as well take it. And like, honestly, I think it's a good thing when you're in the learning process in order to do those things. But if you're at the point where you've started to make some decent money in sales, you know that the quality of person that you speak to is one of the higher leverage levers that you can pull in order to immediately make more money in sales. Because imagine if you have the same skill set and you talk to 100 people who are not interested versus 100 people who are extremely interested, those are going to be very different conversations, and your commissions are going to be very different as well. So if you are already at the place where you've got some decent sales skills, this is 100% how you burn out, how you tire out, and worse, it's how you get lazy with your standards. Quantity over quantity is great when you're in a learning phase, but then once you're in the earning phase, you have to find a great mixture between quantity and quality. It's always this balance between how many opportunities do you have at your table to be able to close versus how many don't you. So if you have a half full calendar, of course you're going to go out and outbound and talk to people who aren't completely interested all the time, but that's how you sift through the opportunities to find the people who are. However, if you have a stacked full calendar, then that's going to be different because you have a calendar full of people who are extremely interested and hot and ready to go. Right? So what I've personally found after coaching 100K a month earners for the past year and a half or so, top performers like that, they don't just like work hard, right? They work smart, but they don't forsake working hard just because they want to work smarter, right? It's a balance between the two. They filter, they qualify, protect your calendar, do all those sorts of things, but like taking 10 garbage calls in a day doesn't necessarily make you a savage. Taking 5 focused calls and closing 4 of them does. So you may as well take the 5 and then with that extra time, find 5 more who can actually come in and fill the rest of the calendar. Last but not least, misconception number 5 is that focus is optional on sales calls. Now, here's the thing. Most people think that time is your number one resource, but it's actually not. It's your focus, because your focus dictates how you use your time, right? And so therefore your focus is really your most important resource that you have in this world. And the great part about that is you can change what you focus on, and you can adapt the level of focus that you give to certain things. But the thing is with sales, on sales conversations, focus is not optional. Focus is debatably, in my opinion, very undebatably, but some people will debate it. Focus is the number one thing that you can do to close more deals today. Set more appointments, get more to show, just be a more successful salesperson today. Because like more than time, more than tonality, more than your script, more than your other sales skills, like if you aren't focused and if your prospect isn't focused, then nothing else matters. You can have the best sales skills in the world, but if the prospect is consistently distracted by something else going on, it doesn't matter. If you're consistently distracted by something else going on, it doesn't matter. All right, the prospects will not take your frame. They won't see you as an authority. They definitely won't make any sort of buying decisions. And ultimately, that's why at the very beginning of the call, you need to make sure that number one, you are extremely focused and present, but also number two, that your prospect is as well. So confirm that they're in a good space, let them know what to expect. And if you feel them starting to drift, then just simply call it out. Be kind, don't be aggressive. Just like if you feel them starting to drift off, just say, hey, John, right? I just want to check, are you fully with me right now? I know that we both want to make this a productive conversation, right? Just very, very simple. I know that we both want to make sure that the time is valuable because we both know that time is money, right? Very, very simple, and they will refocus with you, right? Respect earns attention, and attention creates sales. Now, if you're serious about truly becoming a top 1% sales professional, I built the Sales Dojo. The link is down in the description to join for 7 days for free, where I coach people anywhere from brand new at sales to people who are making over 80 grand a month at the moment inside. And you can learn all of this stuff about how to hold the attention of buyers, how to get people focused at the beginning, and how to properly run the first 2 minutes of your call so that everything is locked in, tight, ready to go, and moving in the right direction. So if you would like to take part in that, hit the link down below, and I'll see you inside for 7 days for free. Ciao, ciao.